thank you, Mr. Craig, for accepting our invitation. And, and I'm sure whatever you say would be of a great insight to our students. As we speak today, School of Business is one of the, one of the top schools in the country here, but we have a subject matter and domain specialization that in which we excel, not only in the country, but outside the country also, such as energy and of course transportation. Aviation is a specialization where not many schools in India offer. I have, interestingly, when I know people who are working from, I know the CEOs of certain airlines, certain airports like Bangalore International Airport. In fact, before joining UPES, I came to know about UPES through him. So UPES and School of Business was popular among the sectors, much ahead of, I knew about the school. So it is a pride to have joined such a school, and especially, as I told you, in certain domain specializations which are well known across the world. And the aviation management, again, students of aviation management are one of the brightest among our students across our specialization, other specialization as well. Talking about the school and the university, we have six schools as of now, and also added on the seventh school of starting from School of Engineering, School of Business, School of Law, School of Health Sciences, School of Design, and School of Computer Sciences. Now we have recently added on School of Modern Media, and also School of Smart Agriculture, which we will be starting from next year on. So this is a university that is fast expanding, and we have connects with with the school, with leading organizations and universities across. And especially in these domains, we are extremely connected with very well connected with the industry. We are one of the perhaps only school which has PhD students from our doctoral students from the industry. And recently, one of our doctoral students who was from GMR moved and started his own initiative along with some of us in the advisory board and some of the faculty members who have guided him, still working with him in consultancy. He's doing a good job in aerospace and disruption in aerospace, especially intervention of technology and how technology can support during this pandemic time. So he has been, his company, Aerotech, I'm talking about this because I think, this is very, very relevant here, how our faculty members and the school is helping solve problems in different spaces and, in different areas, such as, especially in aero industry and anything related to aerospace and, airline industry. So his company is today, he just completed his research and he started his own company. He moved from a very senior position in one of the leading, I'm sure you would have heard of GMR, which does airports across the world, in a build operation, and also, they look after, they are having airports, leading airports in the country as well. So he has now started his own company. He left the very lucrative job and started his own company, which is doing extremely well, which is being appreciated, and his solutions, technology solutions, are being appreciated all across and being bought all across the world. Now this is something extremely interesting and which our faculty members are supporting. I would like to thank, I won't take much of your time because we are also, we are running short of time, and we would like to hear the other speakers and including you. I will also listen to you for a while before I leave, but I would like to thank the student community who are extremely enthusiastic and extremely bright and supporting the faculty team. I think I see Bharti, who's also there, and of course Mohit Rishi, who has worked with, who both of them have done their IATA course and have been supportive to our students, and we would like to do more of this and have our faculty member interact with the corporate and with the professional organizations such as yours, and take our students. Of course, this pandemic has affected airline industry, but I see today, there are people saying that the community is, we understand that traveling by air is not that bad, and I guess it is also safe, is what we hear, and all the safety measures are taken care of. And I think very soon we will have, within a few months, we will get back to the position where the industry was flying, and I'm sure that the industry will fly much higher than what we left before the pandemic. Thank you so much, Mr. Craig, and over to you. And sorry for the disruption and interruption in between.
Thank you, ma'am, for your kind words. Now I would like sir to share his view.
Sure, thank you very much.
Aditya, please stop sharing the screen.
And very soon we would also like to invite you over to our campus. This is one of the most beautiful campuses in the country.
Yeah, surely.
It looks like I did have a look and see where it was. It looks beautiful.
Thank you, sir.
I think you please share his screen once, his deck.
Yeah, have you given me authority to share my screen?
Do you have the deck? I think, Mr. Craig, I think you just have to do share screen.
Yes, fourth option, sir.
I don't seem to have the...
Sir, in the green color, fourth option
I've
would...
got it, yeah, there we go.
Yeah, share screen, sir.
Yeah. Can anyone see my screen? If it's not. Yeah, I got under settings. It's not.
Your deck must already be on in your, desktop, and then I think you just have to share that.
Have you given me the authority to share? Because usually I just press a button on the control bar. I can't seem to be able to share my screen. I think the host has to give me permission to share my screen. Is that right?
Otherwise, you can mail to Mr. Mohit. If you're finding difficulty, I think you can mail to Mr. Mohit.
Sure, we can do that. Is there a setting the host can use to let me share the screen, or we don't know? So on the green button, it comes up with the option.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The green button.
But it's just giving me the settings. I just click on it. It gives me the settings to share screen.
Yes, sir. You are just a co-host. You can share the screen, sir.
What? Sorry?
Sir, you can share the screen.
Co-host you are. Now you can share the screen, sir.
Okay, let me see.
Option is visible now?
No, I can't see. This is a bit strange.
Sir, it's green in color. To share the screen.
So that comes up with settings, right? And then I get share screen. It's just going to need the 6 settings to share screen. It doesn't actually share the screen.
Sir, it's down in bottom.
Pardon?
In the bottom, sir.
So if you could press Alt and S, it will share as well. Alt and S.
See this?
The combination of Alt and S.
That may work. Let us see.
Yes, yes, sir.
Very good. Someone was clever, right? Thank you for that tip. I don't know why the menu wasn't coming up, right? Can everyone see the screen now? Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Right, you see the full screen, not the presenter view. Is that right? Or you're seeing me at the? Does my slide take up the whole screen?
No, it doesn't. You may put that. You go.
There we go. How's that?
Yes, yes. Now it's done. Yeah.
Okay. Now we got past the technical difficulties. Sorry, Madam Dean. Thank you very much, Dr. Anand and the team there. How exciting to be able to share some time this afternoon with you. You can see I've actually put on a tie for the first time for many days. In Singapore, we are still working from home. We have been for 7 or 8 months now, and probably another month or 2 to go. But it's nice to be able to share some time with you. And I really like, as I said in my introduction, being able to encourage people into our industry. It is an exciting industry. It's given me a great life. And I think I can share some of that with you and what we do at IATA. I will leave some time for questions at the end because you may have some questions. I'm going to cover a little bit of what IATA does today and then a little bit about where technology can make some contributions to our industry, particularly moving ahead as we move out of SARS. So as you know, IATA is the global trade association for the world's airlines. We're owned by the airlines. We've got something like 290 airline members. Unfortunately, probably slightly less as this crisis goes on. We were founded in 1945 and we've got a head office in Montreal in Canada and an executive office in Geneva, Switzerland. And we've got 5 regional offices around the world. And Singapore is the regional office for Asia Pacific. We also have a very big office in Delhi and a smaller office in Mumbai. So we've got about 20 staff in Delhi that help us run IATA in India. Our mission is to represent, lead and serve the airline industry. So working together for a sustainable, safe, secure, sustainable industry that connects and enriches our world. I think we're seeing now in this pandemic that, without an aviation industry, the world connection is going to be very difficult. So as Ma'am said before, we will come back. It's just a matter of time because the aviation industry is really vital as part of our world. We have many, many member airlines in Asia Pacific, including a lot of low-cost carriers. And you will see at the bottom of the screen that we've got the major airlines in India are also IATA members. So Air India obviously has been an IATA member for a very, very long time. Vistara is a relatively new member, and of course SpiceJet and Indigo have also joined IATA within the last 3 or 4 years. So we serve all sorts of airlines from the full service carriers through to the new low-cost model, and we're doing our best to sustain them in the industry. So what does IATA do? Why do we have IATA? So we have 4 divisions in IATA. We have customer, financial and digital services. So we manage IATA's industry settlement programs, namely the billing and settlement plan for passenger and the cargo accounts settlement system for cargo. That's BSP and CAS. So those are the systems where when you walk to a travel agent and you can buy a ticket on any airline, we are the clearinghouse for the airline. So generally each week the agents pay us the money for the tickets they've issued and we pay the airlines on behalf of the agents. So that's our primary function around the world. We operate in something like 85 different BSP markets and we transact through those systems over $300 billion a year. So you can see why the airlines want to own us because it's their money that we're dealing with. And our number one priority is to keep that money safe. So part of that is we also license the agents. So you see IATA travel agents and IATA cargo agents. They are part of our licensing and approval systems to run the settlement systems. We're also driving digital transformation in the settlement systems and the payment initiatives, and I'll get onto a little bit of that later on. I guess to say the settlement system between airlines and weekly or monthly, used to be a monthly settlement, it's a little bit old, but we're driving digital transformation to try and make that as efficient and low cost as we can. And part of that is the architecture, the IT architecture that we're going to have and develop to support these payments on a daily basis. You also will notice that airlines and airports have IATA codes, so each airline has a 2-letter code. Air India is AI, so those codes are controlled and managed by IATA, and the same for the airport code, the 3-letter airport codes, those are managed by IATA as well. And the last part in terms of customer financial and digital services are business intelligence. So we use all the data that we have in IATA to come up with business intelligence data for airlines to help manage where to fly, what fares to charge, and what their competitors are doing. So that's kind of that's the customer financial and digital services. We have a member and external relations division as well, and their job really is to advocate for a favourable business environment for airlines. So by that we mean we want smarter regulation, we want taxes that make sense, we want airport slots to work, and we want to be corporate or socially responsible as an industry. So we're doing a lot of work you'll see on the environment and how airlines can become more responsible and get the greenhouse emissions down. This division also tries to attract more airlines to join IATA. So we have 290, but we know there's many more airlines out there, so we're always trying to get them to join IATA. And we also have a lot of industry partnerships. We cannot, airlines, obviously as part of the travel industry, have to work with many, many different partners. So we work with airports, we work with ICAO, we work with governments, and all this falls under the member and external relations. And we also produce here economic analysis for our activities across IATA. So you will have seen, I'm sure, recently a lot of news about how much money the aviation industry is losing, what the cash burn of airlines are, and how long or when we think the market will recover. And all those figures come from the IATA economics unit. So that's, again, a very, very important part of our job, is to get those global figures collated, and we use them when we're talking to governments and airports and airlines. We have an airport passenger security and cargo division as well. Obviously we work a lot with airports, and we'll come into that later when we talk about technology and how we're working there. But we're trying to get best practices spread around the world. And quite exciting news, obviously for everyone, is in India, there are some airports in India that are leading the world in terms of digital innovation and technology, so particularly down in Bangalore. So we work closely with airports like that to not only take what they are learning and try and show the rest of the world, but also to work together with some new developments and see how they can work. We're always trying to make the passenger facilitation, the passenger processing better. Even before COVID, and particularly in places like India, there is enormous strain on the infrastructure. The airports really are struggling to cope with the passenger numbers. So we really need to try and use technology and innovation to make dealing with these passengers much more efficient. So we do that. And then we do obviously the same for freight. Freight is still quite a manual process. We still use a lot of documents in terms of freight. So we're trying to drive, like we did for e-tickets for the passenger side, we're trying to drive e-freight around the world to bring more efficiencies. And then we also work closely with ICAO, the International Civil Aviation Organization, which is part of the UN, on security and information sharing and security screening and those sorts of things. So again, a very important part of, particularly around trying to make the passenger journey more efficient. And finally, our last division is the safety and flight operations. So they handle all issues of flying for the industry. And again, that makes that a lot more safe and efficient. And again, we work a lot on air traffic control. And obviously, we also have an IATA minimum safety standard, the IATA operational and safety audit. So for any airline to join IATA, you have to pass that minimum safety audit first, because that keeps a minimum safety standard in the industry. So overall, that's generally what IATA does in the industry. And you can see that we touch pretty much everything in the industry in terms of aviation infrastructure. And obviously, we also do training, and you are a great partner of ours with training in India. And we've trained since 1999 over 1 million aviation professionals and graduates have chosen, including some at your school, IATA training. And again, we touch everything to do with aviation, probably with the exception of pilot training and the specialized cabin crew training. So we can do introductory cabin crew training, but we don't have the simulators for either pilots or cabin crew. But everything else from airline operations, safety, right through to fuel, fares and ticketing, air traffic control, security, and business management, you can do courses in IATA, and we have many, many different courses, many, many different qualifications that you could use there. We're ISO qualified. Our training centers in Canada and Miami both have an American qualification called ACEP in terms of training, and our training materials are updated clearly because we set the standards ourselves with ICAO, so we make sure that we have the best standards. Probably one of the greatest benefits for IATA, and including some of your instructors, are the access to people we get. So IATA is using the experts in their field. We have over 300 instructors, and most of them are absolute industry experts in what they do. And it's a pleasure to work with them and to listen to them sharing not only the course material that they have to do, but their own personal experience with students in terms of the part of the industry that they're from. So we have 40 plus diploma programs, 300 instructors, 20 training centres, over 350 courses and 470 training partners around the world. And we train about 100,000 students and professionals each year. So we have a really, really big aviation training business. In terms of India and where we go in India, so we can, pre-COVID, which seems for most of us a long, long time ago, India was online to be the world's third largest aviation market by 2025. So it's possible that India will get back there, but possibly a little bit later. But that would be, so the US and China would be first, the US would be second, and then India would be the third largest aviation market in the world. So it's a massive, massive market in India and a huge opportunity for many, many of us who are involved in aviation. In the pre-COVID, in the world's 20th busy airport, Delhi was ranked 12th and had moved up from 16 and had traffic of over 70 million people. So again, it's huge. You have the central government scheme to improve regional connectivity. That's a vital part, a vital role of Indian aviation, and that works very well. There's something like 19 greenfield airports across the country. And when we say greenfield, we mean that's an airport built from nothing. It's not a modification. It's not an upgrade. It's an airfield or an airport built basically from nothing. And we're also seeing, obviously, a lot of interest in the Indian aviation market. So we've got a lot of overseas company making strategic investments in airport bids in India because they want to be part of what is going to be a massive and growing aviation market. A little bit more the UDAN, so that provides regional connectivity. As I say, very important because it makes flying affordable. And there's over 200, almost 300 routes with that, and there's 45 airports and 5 heliports. So that is really providing vital connectivity to India and also driving the growth of the aviation market. In terms of the COVID impact in India, obviously it slowed things down a bit, not only in India but all around the world. But we're working. So out of this COVID arises some opportunities. So around the world, we're seeing many opportunities to open in terms of airspace management. So we're talking with many countries, including India, about trying to have more efficient airspace management and use some airspace that's traditionally been reserved for military. If we can open that up for civilian, that gives us a lot of efficiencies and can save lots of money in terms of fuel and CO2 emissions. India continues to have world-class airports with a private-public partnership model. And if we look at what's happened in India in terms of Delhi and Mumbai and Bangalore and airports like that, providing wonderful, wonderful airport facilities, world-standard airport facilities, and we're happy to see that, and we want to see more of that. And obviously we're seeing some MRO, so this is your maintenance and your overhaul in India, some changes there to make that more efficient. So MRO is a massive business, and MRO goes where it's cost effective to go. So if you've got a good labour force, you've got technicians and you've got costs, MRO will come to you. But in India, we need some special or some new arrangements from the government in terms of cost and taxation on parts and those sorts of things to make MRO even more attractive. India is using air bubbles, and I think this is out of date already. I think we've got more than 16 air bubbles now to restart international flight operations to many places. We're seeing this everywhere. So I live in Singapore, and we've just announced an air bubble with Hong Kong in terms that will start next month. And then Singapore is also opening up to another different countries as well. So in IATA, we really see air travel bubbles with testing as how we can open up and restart our industry, because while quarantines are in existence, pretty much no one's going to travel. And it can be quarantine either way. If you have to go somewhere and you can go straight in, but you have to do quarantine for 2 weeks when you get back, it's just the same as having quarantine at both ends. And in terms of what we're seeing also in India, we know the Star now has not only its 321neo aircraft, but they've got their 787s, and they've launched some of their long-haul services using their 787s. And United are now coming back and announcing actually new services from San Francisco into India the summer of 2021. So there's actually still a lot happening in the aviation market in India. And I think this week we saw that Jet Airways has been sold to a consortium, and there's a possibility that Jet Airways could be revived as well. So again, there's lots of exciting opportunities and exciting things happening in aviation in India, even during these COVID times. So I'll just go on to a little bit now about COVID and the impact, and then how technology might be playing a part in this. And if you look at some of these heat maps in May, we saw a massive impact on flights. And I think all of us earlier in the year were thinking maybe COVID's going to last a few months like SARS did a few years ago or 10 years ago. And unfortunately, when we carry on even July, we still see that there are massive reductions in flights around the world. This graph probably shows it a bit more. So you can see actually at the start of the year, there was massive growth in flights around the world. And then the yellow line is Asia Pacific. We were struck first by COVID, and you can see that in January and February, the flights started to decline a lot. And you can see that all areas are now, well, this was in September, are now almost at least 40% down. And Asia Pacific is a little bit cushioned because we include in Asia Pacific the Chinese domestic markets, and we know the Chinese domestic aviation market is actually back to the same stage that it was before COVID, and that means the rest of Asia is lagging behind and not showing so much growth. So it's fair to say that, with figures like that, the industry is really in a crisis that we've never seen before. It will bounce back. It's just a matter of time and when. And we've already bounced back from the absolute lows of April. You see, March, April, May were really, really low. We've already shown some increase, but still, we're really struggling. Aviation drives something like 2.7 trillion of GDP, supports in the vicinity of almost 70 million jobs around the world, enables trade, and this is more important than ever with the vaccines coming up and medical goods traveling around the world. So a lot of this trade is traveling by planes, not only by freighters, but also in the belly hold of passenger services. And we connect people, businesses, and economies. So, the world won't recover until aviation can recover, and we can help connect the world again. So you'll see that IATA is working very, very hard. You see us, I'm sure, in the newspapers a lot. We're working hard with ICAO, we're working hard with ACI, which is the Airports Association. We're working hard with our airline members and governments to try and open up the aviation industry again, because we simply have to open up. We've got airlines in Asia particularly, we're sitting on the ground with still 3/4 of their fleet grounded and not able to fly. So let me get on to a couple of examples of where technology or technological disruption in the aviation industry is going to help us in the future. And again, the clever airlines are working on a lot of these things now. They're using the downtime in the industry to try and streamline what they're doing. So the first part I will look at is the distribution. And we all know that the world is changing. So society is changing, technology is invading a lot of what we do. We've got environmental issues, we've got economic issues, and we've got political issues. So this leads to a very dynamic and a very changeable future. And it means for our industry that really customer touch points are continuing to evolve. So we've gone from face-to-face, going to a travel agent, to buy an air ticket. We've gone to desktops and used the internet. We've then gone to mobile. We've now gone to voice, and we're now moving on to in the realms of chatbots and social media. And again, a lot of companies in India are leading some of these moves into chatbot and social media. And again, IATA is working with some of these companies to try and learn and take these around the world. What we think this opens an opportunity, and this $40 billion came from a study by McKinsey into the airline industry, is to make airlines more retailers. So in the past, airlines have concentrated on selling airline seats. Sometimes we used to sell holiday products, and that was where we did it. And then the low-cost carriers came along and unbundled things and opened up the opportunity. So we now call this opportunity for airlines to kind of be retailers. We think that can add up to $40 billion if we can use our industry and retail properly and correctly, kind of like how Amazon and those online players do it as well. So in terms of buying tickets, what we saw in the past was the customer experience was really limited, because if you went to a travel agent, you were a bit limited by what the travel agent could see. If you went to the internet, you could see something different. If you rang an airline, you might get something different. And again, travel agents were restricted, and I'll show you the screens in a minute about what they could show about airlines and airline products. So unless most travel agents use the GDS, the Global Distribution Systems, so they were restricted what they could see, and unless they went to an airline website, you couldn't see the full content. And that meant airlines were a little bit restricted as well, because all you could really show as an airline was your fare. So you might have heard about this, NDC, New Distribution Capability, and it's really just a standard to make an open internet-based sharing of data. And the easiest way to show the difference here is this screen here. I'll come back to that in a minute. This is your traditional travel agent's availability request. And I don't know whether any of you have seen this before, but you've got your airlines down there, you've got your booking classes, and this is what the travel agent would see when they were selling an airline. Under NDC, we can start to get displays like this. So a lot more user-friendly displays, a lot more information on the screen, and you can then see a lot more rich content. So you can start seeing some pictures, you can start seeing comparisons between here, you've got economy basics, economy class, and business, and all these different things. And then you can also add even some contents and show deals and do comparisons side by side. So this is the change that NDC will bring to distribution that travelers will see, and we call this rich content. So instead of seeing, or the travel agent just seeing a screen like this, which is pretty much a timetable, a booking class, and seat availability, we can then get on to selling rich content that travelers can see a lot more. And this is opening, more importantly for the industry, if we go to this slide, opening a lot of opportunities. So NDC will open up distribution for airlines. So firstly, as an airline, you'll be able to connect direct yourself to passengers, and we already do that. Airlines have internet sites. Or you can use on the right-hand side there the travel agent. So again, you can use a travel agent, but the travel agent can see rich content coming in from NDC. Or in the middle there, what we say is new entrant aggregators. So clever young people are making new companies that are going to allow NDC content to be shown, and they're going to be outside the GDS. So we're seeing a lot of activity in what we call new entrants aggregators, who are bringing all the API feeds from airlines together into one system that travel agents or the public can use. So this will revolutionize distribution for airlines. It will become more efficient, and it will open up competition in terms of new aggregators as well. So it's quite an exciting time for airline distribution. Once we have NDC underway, we call what's next, and we call it one order. So this is kind of the next part of our payment system. So in the past, you used to make a booking with a character code, and then we used to issue you an airline ticket, and we'd have a ticket number, and we'd do that. So in the industry, you had a booking number, and you had a ticket number, and the references were kind of linked. Under one order, what we're going to do is bring that all together, just like an online retailer does, and we just make it one single reference and one order confirmation. So it sounds a very, very simple and a very, very logical process, but given where we come from, where you issued your airline ticket under one ticket, you issued your hotel under another document, you issued your rental car under another document, and your lounge pass under another document, there's a lot of work that will go into making this one order work. But again, we think it will bring a lot of efficiencies through the systems, because instead of handling 3 or 4 different payments, we're just going to make a single one order payment. So again, this is where distribution is going, and here's what it might look like. We'll just get you and manage your order. And again, we stole them from Amazon, but this is how we want the airline industry to work as well. So again, quite exciting and quite interesting. And then the last thing we're in distribution in terms of customers and selling fares and tickets is where we see the chatbots, the introduction of chatbots. So Finnair is one of the leading airlines in the world. And again, we think this will bring a lot of efficiencies in different ways of booking flights. So that's in terms of airline distribution, where technology is going to contribute to our industry, disrupt our traditional distribution, but offer us a lot of opportunities. Now let's look again at something completely different, but because IATA touches the industry, we know, so the airport processes. So even before COVID, as I said before, particularly in places like India, we had a lot of issues in airports. Basically, there's not enough space at airports. There's not enough airports to handle the passenger numbers that we see. And the passenger controls today really evolve around your passport and your air ticket. So you make your booking, you have check-in, you do a bag drop, you show your ticket. You do security, you show your ticket. You get screened, you show your ticket. You then go outbound to immigration, show your passport and your ticket. You board and you have to show your passport and your ticket. You get on the flight, and then you get to border control and have to show everything again. So this is it's kind of a standard system. Every airport does this, international airport does this, but there's a lot of inefficiencies inherent in this and a lot of reliance on the ticket and the passport. Again, we also think it's quite time consuming, it's costly and relatively inefficient. So what can we as an industry do? So we've surveyed passengers because an important part of finding out what this is, what people would be comfortable doing. So a lot of people would be comfortable or want now, particularly with COVID, is touchless processing through the airport. They don't want to be touching screens. They don't want to be touching gates. And then also we know that there's a concern. People are concerned when they have to hand over their boarding pass, even if it's on the phone, to airport officials. So this, again, that part is touching, so we want to make it touchless. Passengers want more personal control. And the interesting thing is, in terms of biometrics, is that they are willing to give up a little bit of information or a little bit of privacy to use biometrics, and if their journey can center around the smartphone. So 70% of passengers last year said they would share additional information, including their biometrics, to speed up the airport processing. So what we're doing in IATA is One ID, we call it, and we're going to work with airlines, we're going to work with airports, and we're going to work with governments to try and make this airport experience a lot more efficient. So essentially what we're going to do is come up with a single identity management solution that goes through the whole process. So if you see here, when you're ready to fly, you will put in your One ID. You'll use that at bag drop and security access. You'll use that at screening, passenger control boarding, and you'll use that when you arrive at your destination. So essentially what we're working with is the industry to try and come up with this single kind of ID. It'll be centered around your smartphone that will recognize you, it'll recognize your journey, and then more importantly, the governments and the relative authorities at security touchpoints will also recognize this single ID. So to do that, we needed a trusted digital identity. We need a management platform, which IATA will be working on. Obviously, you need an operational framework, and then you need biometric recognition. So there's a long way to go on this, because it's not only the airlines and airports that we have to work with, but it's customs, it's immigration, and the security authorities we have to work with. But that is the concept of what we're going to work, and we're going to use technology. And I'm sure a lot of you have heard about Terminal 4 at Singapore Changi Airport. That was using digital ID as much as we could at the time to try and go through. So you didn't have to check in, and you could use your boarding pass and your photo right through to boarding. So that's what we're trying to do. So that's the area of the airport that we're trying to bring technology to, and that's the end of my presentation. So I've shared a bit about IATA, a little bit about what we do, but I think more importantly in terms of airline distribution and sales, where technology has been helpful, and in terms of the airport process, where technology can help. So I hope that's been, I'm aware that I've spoken for a long time. I'm happy to answer any questions, and I hope that enabled you to learn a little bit about what IATA is doing. And I think more importantly for you, obviously being young, technologically intelligent people, are where technology is working now and probably in the future to help the industry. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, sir. Your session was full of zeal and valuable information. Now we are open for question and answer round. If anybody has any questions, please put up in the chat box. We'll definitely take up some.
Good afternoon, sir.
Hello.
So I wanted to ask that, is it really like, are we coping up with the COVID situation right now in the present scenario? Like, have the like aviation sector started building up again, or it's still in crisis, according to
Look,
IATA?
yeah, no, I mean, according to us, I think there's no doubt we're still in crisis, and we will be for a few more months. So I think the problem, one of the issues we're seeing, particularly in Asia Pacific, is we are seeing flights coming back, but we're not seeing passengers coming back. So if you look, for example, Singapore Airlines in Singapore are operating, I think in December, something like 15% of their pre-COVID capacity, which is a crisis to start with, but passenger numbers are still over 90% down. So that's why you'll see IATA and again, some of our partners really pushing for testing, because we think it's the only way to bring traffic of any volume back is testing, not quarantine. So our view is we're in a crisis, and until we can get past the quarantine issues, that crisis will probably still be here.
So, sir, is there some strategy or a vision by ITA to boost up this, like to get back on track in
Yes.
in Asia Pacific region?
Yeah, so what we are doing now is working with governments and airports, and a lot of this is behind the scenes because that's where you have to start, but to try and work out how we can get testing more efficient and get testing maybe at airports to enable it to open up. So obviously, if a vaccine comes along, this will solve a lot of the problems, but until then, we think that testing is the only way for it to happen. And then we think we'll see air bubbles probably expanding and not a full opening up until there is a vaccine.
Okay, so thank you so much, sir.
No worries. So I see a second question, there are two questions there that I see in the Q&A. How can we overcome the threat of data selling if we proceed with biometric? That's a really good question, particularly in the European and US markets where privacy laws are very strong. So in terms of the airport systems that we looked at and the biometrics, what the system IATA is proposing is that the data stays on the cell phone of the passenger. It's not transferred or used by any other system. It's seen by another system, but it's not saved or used by another system. So essentially that would mean that your biometrics stay on your phone and you choose who you would share them, but B, when you share them with airports or airlines, it's not kept and it's not saved. So again, it's a tricky one because yes, you have to be careful and you have to obey the privacy laws. And we think that's probably the safest way of doing it. Don't ask me exactly how the technicality of all this works, but that's the principles that we're working off, that we don't keep, basically the biometric passes through our systems, it's not kept in our system. I hope that answers the question. The second question is how much. Second question I see there is how much time, according to IATA, will the industry take to cover up for the losses, which are in the billions of dollars? I don't know whether we forecast when the losses will be recovered, but we are saying it's going to be 2024 before the industry returns to the pre-COVID travel levels. So that will give us probably 3 or 4 years of significant industry losses before the industry can even start to recover some of those losses and show some profits. Yeah, it's a long duration. It is. There's some optimism that it could be earlier if vaccines are developed quickly, but at the moment we are quite pessimistic about when it will go. And if you look at Australia as a market, and I'm not quite so much expert on India, but even the Australia domestic market is struggling because the states have their own rules. So Qantas can't even fly where they want to domestically at the moment, and the international borders for Australia are still officially closed. And Qantas are now saying it's probably going to be mid-2021 before they have any meaningful international flights. So they'll think they'll have some flights to travel bubbles, maybe New Zealand and Pacific Islands and places like that, but not a major, not even back to the numbers that they had pre-COVID. So yeah, it's going to be a long, slow recovery. IATA identifying best practices for communicating with passengers and employees in regards to the new normal or airline operation return. Arushi, I'm not sure exactly what you mean by that. We, as an industry or an industry body, we are concentrating on kind of communicating the macro message to the world. So we're kind of trying to speak to governments about the economic impact of border closures and no airlines, the economic impact of no tourists, and the economic impact on the airlines. And you'll see, I think 1 or 2 weeks ago, we launched a chart that showed the cash burn of airlines at the moment, and basically telling governments that airlines are burning tens of billions of dollars each year. So we're concentrating on that. In terms of airlines speaking with passengers and employees, we leave that up to the airlines. We don't go down to that level as IATA. We will assist airlines with that macro information if they need to speak to people, but we don't really tell the airlines how to talk to their employees or their passengers on an individual basis. Where do we expect India's traffic in the future? Oh, sorry, Marita?
No, yeah, yes, sir. No, sir, continue, sir. I was just saying another question is also there. So I
Sure.
mean, more questions are also there. Yeah.
Where do you expect India's traffic in the future? Look, if we take COVID as a bump, and it's going to be a big bump, and it's going to be maybe 3 years or a 4-year bump, but I think already we're seeing India's domestic traffic come back significantly, and I think you've just gone into a holiday period, and the last forecast I saw was something like 60 to 70% of pre-COVID capacity. So already in India, we're seeing a recovery of domestic traffic. International will take longer to recover. But again, if the vaccine comes, we'll see a really quick recovery. If it's going to be travel bubbles and testing, it's going to be much slower recovery. So, but without a doubt, India is going to become the world's 3rd largest travel market at some stage. COVID has just interrupted the forecasts, and by what stage? So we all know India has massive population. It's a massive market. It will get there. It's just a matter of time. Right, a couple of questions. Oh, the relationship with IATA and Amazon. So no, there's no relationship. We're just saying that we view Amazon as an online retailer, and that's how we view the online airline distribution to be like a retailer. At the moment, we're not. At the moment, we sell our tickets and we sell our hotel accommodation, we sell a car, we sell a car rental, and we sell a hotel, all under kind of different transactions. So what we're just saying, like Amazon combines everything you buy into one transaction and gives you the money. That's what we're saying. That's what we're saying we want our industry to get to. You buy all parts of your journey and just do one set, just like Amazon. There's a question there. The digital transformation is what industry is following now. We're looking into the Indian aviation industry. It has less infrastructure and support activities to implement at a broader level. As we introduce one order of distribution, how can the Indian industry implement this without failure? Okay, I think, as I said before, there's some really interesting and leading edge technological developments that are going on in India. So I understand what you're saying. On one hand, the India industry or market is a little bit behind the world. It doesn't have the infrastructure to support activities. But I think in terms of our industry and the technological edge, it exists in India, and it's leading edge. So if we look at Bangalore Airport, they are one of the leading airports in terms of trying to make the contactless journey and the journey through the airport more efficient. So I think we can learn from Bangalore. Yes, some airports won't be ready, but if we can implement in 5, 6, 7 key airports in India, that will make a big change to the customer journey, and also makes it easier for other airports to introduce. And then again, in terms of one order and distribution, if you look at the online travel agents in India, Make My Trips, a massive online travel agency. So again, these guys can lead some of these developments, and indeed they are. So I think in terms of India, we sit really comfortably. There's a lot of technological advancement there. And I think a lot of it's to do with the fact that many of these new companies that are involved are sitting in India. So we've got the people there to help out. So I don't think we have any worry that the India aviation market will be left behind. And in fact, my view is probably some parts of the India aviation market can lead the way for the world. There's a question on cargo. good percentage of revenue to the industry. Can we expect the same at this time period? So what we're seeing now is cargo is supporting the industry. So if we look at traditionally when you plan flights, you look at the passenger numbers and you then decide to fly based on the passenger numbers, and if you get cargo that goes underneath an aircraft, and particularly some of the larger passenger aircraft can carry up to 20 or 30 tons of cargo, so there's a lot of information there, a lot of revenue there. But in the past, that came after the passengers. What we're seeing now in COVID, because there's a lot of demand for cargo and the cargo rates are actually quite expensive because there's demand. So we're seeing airlines look at where can I make some money on cargo, and if I have passengers, that's an added extra. So cargo is really contributing more to the industry as a percentage than it ever has before. That will carry on for the next few months. And again, as passenger numbers grow, the cargo contribution to revenue will naturally fall off. But we're seeing at the moment a really big contribution of cargo to revenue, and such a big contribution that airlines are looking at where they can take cargo, and passengers might be a secondary thing. And you've seen that in India. I know that Indigo have carried a lot of cargo, and they've been carrying cargo in some of their passenger aircraft. So again, we're seeing such a huge demand that actually airlines are considering how they use their cargo, their passenger aircraft to carry cargo. COVID is seen as circumstantial, or can it be forecast? No, I don't think COVID could be forecast. They call it a black swan event. Black swan events are unforecast events. Look, I think what we could have forecast was something like SARS. We've been through SARS before and we know what to do. And I think even a lot of countries' pandemic response, they've been through SARS before, they knew what to do. But this is different. This is much, much bigger than SARS. And people, not only in the aviation industry, but I think people in governments really haven't known what to do. And it's been a lot of trial and error. So I don't think we could have forecast this. And I don't think you can forecast such an event on a massive scale. You know, the airline industry, and I've been in the industry almost 30 years. I've seen the oil crisis. I've seen the Gulf Wars. I've seen SARS. I've seen bird flu, MER, and now I've seen COVID. So COVID is by far the worst. And I think any of the others you can kind of manage because they're short or they don't affect the whole world, or in the case of fuel going up to $160 a barrel, $180 a barrel, every airline had to pay the same and everyone in the world suffered, but the world was still connected. I don't think we could have forecast something like this, which essentially sees airlines forced to ground their fleets because they're not allowed to fly passengers in.
Great, sir. So another question is from the Q&A chat box. Do you think we can still count on air traffic to double by next decade? What's IATA take on that?
That's a good question and a bit hard. I think those forecasts will be revisited. I think once we finish COVID in the next year or so, see the impact and where the passenger numbers are, we'll go back to our forecasts of where we see the next decade going. So I think it's a bit hard to answer that question. As I said before, though, COVID is a hump, it's a hole, and it's a big hole, and it will take us not months but years to get through. But it will come back. Like, there's no doubt air traffic will come back. And if I look at all of you, I can take you as an example, I think you're probably all in your early 20s. You all want to go out and see the world. You all probably want to work in different countries, just like we all do. I don't think that's going to change. So we just have to get past this COVID. And we'll get back to enjoying life in a connected world that it was in the past. Because I think we all want to do it. And I think it's a great thing for the world.
नई को क्रिसमस वाली लगाई थी, दूसरी एक उसकी लगाई थी, क्या बोलते हैं, फैशन शो हुआ था.
So happy to, if there's any more questions, happy to answer those.
Yes,
thank you.
हमने बैठ करके उधर.
Just a last question if we could take. Shall be the IATA guidelines under which the normal international operations shall resume post-pandemic?
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
Sure, sir. What shall be the IATA guidelines under which the normal international operations shall resume post-pandemic?
Yeah, that's a good question. Look, I don't think IATA, I think IATA will have to issue guidelines that are in, or that correlate to what the governments want. And so that's why we're looking at testing now, because we think that testing is a good idea, that if you've got two countries with relatively low transmission of COVID, that if you do testing on arrival at each end, you can probably allow some traffic to open up. But in terms of normal operations and the world being connected, it's going to be more up to governments as to when that can happen. And I think our feeling is, in all honesty, that until a vaccine comes along, we're not going to see a return to the good old days of us all being able to jump on a plane and go anywhere we like. But, you know, the good news is I think the vaccines aren't too far away. There's progress being made and we see lots of things. So we're quite confident that, you know, by this time next year, we won't be back to normal, but it will look a lot different to how it does today.
Right, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you for your valuable insight.
Thank you, Mr. Craig, for your valuable time and I think satisfying queries of number of students. I think we had to stop here going further.
Sure. Look, and again, thank you very much.
I look forward for your visit to Dehradun, sir.
Yeah, I'm going to book it in when I can come. I don't know when it is.
once we are over with this pandemic, I hope, you know, maybe 21 will be good time to receive you here.
Sure. And look, thank you for inviting me.
Thanks, sir. Thanks.
I don't know whether you come to exams time, but I wish you guys all the best with your studies. It's a great industry, connects the world, and it'll be a great career. So please study hard and enjoy your time at university and enjoy your time in the industry. I look forward to seeing you hopefully next year.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for joining. I'm Mohit Rishi. It was a wonderful session. Thank you so much, sir.
All right. Thank you. Goodbye. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. We wish the same for you. Thank you, everyone. Now, I would request all the participants to join the Blackboard link sent to them for the final rounds of the events. We would like to continue with the final rounds of the events. Twist the menu and imagine it's you. Participants, please proceed. We shall continue in the second half. I request all the participants of the events to join the Blackboard link. Participants, you can leave the meeting. We shall join again in the second half, which is at 4 o'clock. And the participants for the Twist the Menu and Imagine It's You can join the Blackboard link. Also for Imagine It's You, the final round has been started. So hurry up and join the link. Thank you, everyone.
For the second half, we have a separate link. Please make sure you use that, the second link, okay?
Yes, the second link has been circulated. So please join that from 4 o'clock.
Thank you, Praritha.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone.